Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have our blockbuster semi-final to discuss: Aryna Sabalenka versus Iga Swiatek for the 2025 Roland Garros tournament. Cannot wait to get into this one. Such an intriguing matchup. Before you do though, remember to hit that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, shout out to our members as well. You guys are legends. Okay, let's get into this then. So we have the Queen of Clay, you might say, for Iga Swiatek versus the world number one in Aryna Sabalenka. Iga, of course, as well, is a four-time Roland Garros champion, and she is on an astonishing 26-match winning streak at the French Open. For Aryna Sabalenka, she has been incredibly consistent at Grand Slams, generally, not just the French Open, making at least the second week in all her tournaments. I think it's since 2020, which is unreal consistency. She's now looking to go one step further, at least after making the semi-finals of Roland Garros 2 years prior. And look, she's got a pretty good chance, I have to say. Swiatek, though, has been playing some really good tennis after a very wobbly start to the season. No titles won as of yet for her. I'm sure that will change as the year progresses, maybe at the French Open. But her form has definitely come to the fore during this Roland Garros, and there were big concerns after a pretty poor Rome and Madrid as well. But look, she's back, looking in great form. Sabalenka as well beat some players who I think potentially she could have struggled with. So this sets up a very exciting match. In terms of recent form, Sabalenka is definitely the more informed player. She has won some great titles, not just this year, but also last year. But the Madrid Open this year, I think, is the biggest one for her. In terms of the head-to-head, Swiatek, though, leads the head-to-head 8-4. So the head-to-head is in favour of Swiatek. If you want to talk about clay court even, but let's not skip to the hard court season. She also has the upper hand. 5-1 on clay. Now, Swiatek beat Sabalenka last year in Rome in the final, then also in Madrid as well. Sabalenka had match point, or points even, in that final. She won that in a final set tiebreaker, Swiatek 9-7. Before that, the only win that Sabalenka has over Swiatek was in Madrid in 2023, where she beat her in 3 sets. They've also played, interestingly, in Stuttgart, where Swiatek beat Sabalenka in 2023, and at Rome again, which was in 2022, where Swiatek beat her in straight sets. I forgot to mention another Stuttgart matchup at the final where Swiatek beat Sabalenka in straight sets. So I think it's fair to say that so far in their rivalry, Swiatek has been the dominant one out of the two when they played on clay. It's fair to say. However, Sabalenka is much improved on clay. I think that's fair to say. And I'm not sure if Swiatek is playing at her best right now. She's playing very well. I don't know if it's at her best, at her peak clay court level. This is who she's played so far: Shamkova, Raducanu, Christian, Rybakina, and Svitolina. All of them in straight sets, apart from Rybakina, where she dropped the first set, got breadsticked in that first set, and then managed to recover nicely and take a decider 7-5. For Sabalenka, she hasn't dropped a set yet. She beat Rakimova, Teichmann, Danilovic, Anisimova, and Zheng Xinwen. I think the Anisimova and Zheng matches were really big from my perspective, because she has a 5-2 losing head-to-head against Anisimova, including a bunch of clay court wins for the American. Managed to get through that nicely. And then Zheng Xinwen, she just recently lost to her in Rome. So to get the win over Zheng, I think, was a big win as well. So it's going to be about Swiatek's clay court dominance against Sabalenka's power and poise, I think it's fair to say. Swiatek, we know what she brings to the table on a clay court. Super heavy ball, lots of topspin, exceptional sliding and movement, and an ability to dictate play with great angles and also defense from the back of the court. Generally has very good shot tolerance. However, that is tested when she comes up against powerful players such as Rybakina. Even Svitolina at times was able to introduce some areas that maybe you wouldn't expect from Swiatek in the past. For Sabalenka, she is all about aggression, but calculated aggression. She's managed to rein it in a little bit so that she's hitting bigger targets, but still hitting through the court. Really will attack the Swiatek second serve, as she's done with all opponents. Swiatek, though, has the advantage over a lot of other opponents that she has a very potent kick serve. So Sabalenka will have to take that. If she wants to stand inside the baseline, she's going to be taking that almost at shoulder height. Maybe she'll be comfortable with it, maybe she won't. But potentially she'll have to stand maybe on the service line or slightly behind. And that gives Swiatek gives her more time to defend. Because of that slightly deeper return position we might see from Sabalenka at times. So it just means that Swiatek is able to get into a better position, I think, in the point from the off, rather than, say, another player, let's say Zheng, for example, whose second serve was getting ripped apart from Sabalenka in that match. Sabalenka's serve is a huge weapon, so if that's working, it's going to be a tough day's work for Swiatek, but Swiatek arguably has the best return game on tour. So if they're both at their best in serve and return form, it could set up some phenomenal games on the Sabalenka serve. And to be fair, on the Swiatek serve, because Swiatek's serve is not as strong as Sabalenka's. She's made some improvements, I think, on the first serve, but there's still definitely some weakness on not just her serve, but her service game. She can be susceptible to getting broken, and especially with Sabalenka being so aggressive on return, that could definitely come to the fore. So expect some breaks of serve from both players. What will be interesting is actually the variety that Sabalenka brings to the table, because Swiatek will try and push Sabalenka back with heavy topspin depth and angles and get her on the defensive, because that's where she'll want Sabalenka to be. That's where Sabalenka is least comfortable. She has added, though, some good defensive tools and also just general variety to her game. The forehand slice, backhand slice have been good tools to add to make sure that she's able to recover and get to neutral on points when she's on the back foot. Also, I think the drop shot is a great addition. It was, I would say, quite effective against Zheng Xinwen. It had a mixed effect, I guess, or maybe not the desired outcome that she would have wanted in terms of success percentage, because at times I think she was dropping that drop shot too deep, almost past the service box, and that's not ideal, but it's obviously something that she's added to her game. I think it's a really good contrast to her power hitting game from the baseline, and it does disrupt the rhythm of opponents. It gives them something to think about, and they could potentially then in their baseline positioning be too far forward because they're expecting the drop shot and then get hit through quite easily, or they could be too far back because of the power, and then the drop shot doesn't even need to be that good from Sabalenka. So we've seen that as well. So that's a good addition, I think, in my opinion. And for Swiatek, we haven't really seen her. She doesn't really have a drop shot, but we have seen her come forward, take the ball out of the air, drive volleys. I've actually been really impressed with her drive volleys. Volleying generally is not great, just the traditional volleying at the net, but her drive volleys seem to almost be more natural for her, which is an interesting one. Sabalenka also will try and come forward at times, and she's a better volleyer, in my opinion, than Swiatek. It's going to be a tight and very intense battle, I think, no doubt, and I think where this match could be won or lost is going to be not necessarily the serve return time, which is always important, but I do think that both players are going to have opportunities to break. I think it's going to be down to how clinical both players are going to be in the big points, and that will come to point construction and also how brave and intelligent both players are in those big moments. There's also going to be a lot of pressure on Swiatek because this is she's coming up against the world number one. She's used to being the world number one. Sabalenka will bring it. I think she's going to be confident. It's going to be interesting to see how Swiatek holds up. I think the safe prediction would actually be Swiatek in 3 sets. I think the form she's shown has been good. Against Svitolina, I thought she was showing a really good level. But she has been making more errors than I would expect, and I do think Sabalenka can frustrate Swiatek. My prediction is going to be quite a big one. I'm going to go for Sabalenka. I picked her to win the tournament at the start of the tournament. However, I thought Swiatek would probably play Ostapenko potentially and then lose to Ostapenko. So I wasn't banking on a Swiatek-Sabalenka semi-final, but I am going to stick with Sabalenka to win this match in 3 sets. I just think she's improved so significantly on clay. She's moving better. The variety's there. I think she has enough to get over the line against Swiatek. And I also don't think that Swiatek is the best level Swiatek that we've seen on clay, if that makes sense. I think if I thought she was going to come into this match and play her best level, I think she wins against anyone on clay. She's the best clay courter on tour when she's playing at her best. I don't think we're going to see that, so I think Sabalenka will get the win. Let me know in the comment section below what you think and why. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well. We'll see you on the next video.